Since this Xiaomi Mi Note 2 competes directly with the Galaxy Note 7, which is now a flaming fireball, this review of the Xiaomi Mi Note 2 is going to be filled to the top with puns about explosions, fires, and bombs, etc. Enjoy! The Xiaomi Mi Note 2 exploded onto the scene just as the Galaxy Note 7 was exploding out. I was thinking this could be the perfect replacement phone. Well, maybe. Based on specs, it doesn't actually lose to the Galaxy Note 7. It has the Snapdragon 821 processor, 4 gigs of RAM, and it actually looks really similar to the Galaxy Note 7, and the only thing that's missing is the S Pen. And the best part of this phone is the price starting at $417. It costs almost half what the Galaxy Note 7 costs. Xiaomi is really trying to set the world on fire here with the Xiaomi Mi Note 2, and let's see if they're successful. The Mi Note 2 is a beautiful phone, but once you lay a finger on it, the glass gets all dirty and smudged up, which really makes it look really ugly. I highly recommend some sort of clear case just to keep this phone clean so that it doesn't look like it just came out of the garbage. It's also really slippery because this phone is encased in glass. That's another reason to get a case for this phone as well. This phone is also really huge, at least for me. Compared to the Xiaomi Mi 5S, you can see how big the Mi Note 2 is compared to the 5S. But then again, it's not that big a phone for a phablet compared to the iPhone 7 Plus. It's actually not that big. That being said, I probably will never use this phone as my daily driver just because of how big this phone is. From the front, this phone looks very similar to the Galaxy Note 7 with the curved glass on the front and the back melting into the metal bezels, as well as the strangely similar home buttons, as well as the capacitive buttons flanking the home button as well. That's not a bad thing though, just because the Galaxy Note 7 was a beautiful phone even before the phone halted and caught fire. And the Mi Note 2 is a beautiful phone as well. The Mi Note 2 uses a Pentile OLED 1080p display. It's definitely a good screen, but Pentile screens in general are less sharp than non-Pentile screens. The difference isn't very big, but the difference is definitely there. I don't usually complain about stuff like this, but the Mi Note 2 does cost a pretty chunk of change at about $417, and that's before international reseller markups. So if this is a deal breaker for you, I completely understand. Colors are very deep and vivid. The OLED display has very deep blacks, almost as black as an AMOLED panel. Contrast is good and colors are reproduced very nicely as well. For example, orange and yellow. The maximum brightness of the screen tops out at around 550 nits, which isn't very bright, but it is bright enough to use in direct sunlight. It also has Gorilla Glass 4, which the Mi 5S does not have. This is a great display, and if the 1080p Pentile display burns the deal for you, well, this deal is burnt then, kind of like the Galaxy Note 7. But it really shouldn't be because the difference between 2K and 1080p is really minor, and the Pentile display still looks pretty great. The loudspeaker is very loud and decent, as loud as the Mi 5S. It's downward firing and I'm okay with that. I prefer front firing speakers, but then again, I wouldn't want to make the phone any bigger than it already has to be. The audio quality is pretty decent as well. It's actually better than the Mi 5S, and there is bass in the audio as well. So when you listen to explosions, you can hear the bass part of the explosions. Here's some sample audio for you to listen to.
Hey guys, what's up? Zian here, and this is the Xiaomi Amazfit smartwatch. There's maybe 3 reviews of this smartwatch in English, and that's understandable because this smartwatch is actually only in Chinese at the moment. There are rumors that there will be an English version coming out around January or December, but we'll see about that. So this is Xiaomi's first smartwatch made by Qualcomm, a subsidiary of Xiaomi located in California. It's just $120 for a smartwatch, which is very cheap, but the specs are pretty average. Nothing really jumps out at you except for
the battery life here is amazing. It blows away the battery life on every single flagship, except for the Note 7 because the Note 7's battery has already blown up. However, it still loses to my Xiaomi Redmi 4 in terms of battery life, and that's understandable because the Redmi 4 has a smaller screen, a lower power processor, and the same size battery. That being said, I was still able to get about 6 hours of screen on time on this phone with about 10% left at the end of the day, so those are definitely great results. This was a mix of web browsing, a little bit of gaming, snapping some photos, and some Reddit as well. So I ran the customary battery test that I usually run, the web browsing test as well as the video playback test, and I actually got pretty low scores surprisingly. I'm not sure why, but I got around 9 hours of web browsing and 10 hours of video playback. So thankfully those scores don't translate into real world use, because if they did, then you definitely wouldn't be able to get 6 hours of screen on time with this phone. But in real life, even heavy users will have a hard time killing this phone in one day, and there is also quick charge to charge this phone up to about 50% in about 30 minutes. MIUI 8 is still cartoony. I still don't like it, but that's personal preference. Functions wise, it has all the same functions and customizations that any MIUI 8 phone would have, for example in the Mi 5S, in the Xiaomi Redmi Note 4, and the Redmi 4 as well. As you can see, I also have a video of a fire as a background, which is kind of fitting since this is competing against the Note 7. It's also blazing fast as the Mi 5S, as they both have the same processor, the same RAM, as well as the same UFS 2.0 storage. You can multitask and open and close apps very fast as well. I have no complaints here. The fingerprint sensor is what really surprised me. It's faster than the Mi 5S and the Verni Mars, and it's incredibly accurate as well. You do have to press the button to activate the fingerprint sensor, and I really don't like that because that's a step back from other phones, for example the Mi 5S or the Lenovo Z2 Plus, where all you have to do is touch the sensor for the fingerprint sensor to activate. Gaming wise, you can game very well on this phone. I could play every intense game on the Play Store on highest settings with no problems at all. And I also get a very high Antutu score as well. The phone gets warm pretty easily when playing games or doing intense things, but it never really gets blazing hot. I realized I forgot to record the connectivity section of the Xiaomi Mi Note 2, so here it is. The Mi Note 2 comes with WCDMA and LTE bands, but do make sure it works with your carrier before you buy this phone. Reception is great on this phone, but then again, at this point, reception on every phone is pretty much great, and it just matters which one has that 1% better reception than the others. GPS, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth all work very well. There is no IR blaster in this model as well. And the worst thing is that there's no micro SD card slot as well, which I kind of hope that there was. The rear camera is a 22 megapixel camera, which is a lot higher than other flagship devices, but it still has a lot of the same deficiencies and quirks as the Mi 5S. In great lighting conditions, it takes comparable photos to the best flagships out there. There's tons of detail, contrast, and nice color. It does struggle a little bit with dynamic range, but nothing too great there. Once you hit low light situations, you start seeing the quality of the pictures go down. You start seeing a lot of noise and grain introduced into the photos. But then again, it's actually better than the Mi 5S, which is surprising. But it still doesn't match up to photos taken from the Note 7. The same thing holds true for the front camera. Great lighting conditions, you can take great selfies. Bad lighting conditions, you take bad photos. The rear-facing video camera takes 4K video, and sadly it doesn't have any OIS. It's still using EIS, Electronic Image Stabilization, and the implementation here is not bad, but it's still not as good as the Google Pixel. So you still get more of a shaky cam effect here compared to other phones that have OIS or the Google Pixel, which has a better EIS implementation. There's a full manual mode for videos and photos, so that should help you take better low-light photos as well. So my verdict is that the Mi Note 2 is the bomb. It's such a great device, and in my opinion, a great low-cost alternative to the Galaxy Note 7, which is also a bomb. There are downsides to this phone though. I personally don't like how big it is, but then again, if you're looking at the Mi Note 2 as a possible replacement to the Note 7, then that's exactly why you want the phone. You want it to be big. It gets dirty easily and is pretty slippery as well because of the glass back. Not everyone likes MIUI, but then again, not everyone likes TouchWiz as well, so that's down to personal preference. Probably the biggest deal breaker or downside to this device would be the low light performance. It's not too bad, but it also doesn't match up to the best flagships in the world, for example, the Galaxy Note 7 or the S7 or even the iPhone 7. Overall though, the Mi Note 2 is still a great device, and in my humble opinion, the Mi Note 2 does kill the Galaxy Note 7 with fire. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, as well as any obvious puns I might have missed. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, and before I sign off, I want to read to you the list of all the other puns that didn't make it into this review. I just have to get it off my chest. So first one, give a man a fire, he'll be warm for an evening. Set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Same thing happens with the Note 7. The Mi Note 2 is smoking hot. Something's burning and it's not the Mi Note 2. I tested the battery life and the Xiaomi Mi Note 2 had explosive results. You should try the Mi Note 2. I hear it's a blast. The features of the Mi Note 2 are absolutely mind-blowing. Thanks so much, and I'll see myself out.